My name's Nadine, 44 years old, born and raised just outside Macon, Georgia. And last Sunday night, I left the family group chat like a ghost, slipping out a door nobody noticed was open. No farewell message, no cuss words, no goodbye emoji, just my thumb hovering over that tiny gray button while the smell of burnt sweet potato crust floated through my kitchen. Click, gone. People think a group chat don't mean much. They say things like, "Girl, you so sensitive." But if you knew what that chat held, 12 years of holidays, birthdays, and you coming through, texts, you'd know that click was the quietest scream I ever made. The AC was running its lazy hum and the ceiling fan wobbled with that offbeat tick. Outside, a porch light flickered against the wet wood from yesterday's rain. I stood there, thinking how every sound in this house had watched me hold that family together, like duct tape and faith. See, I didn't come from people who had everything figured out. Mama passed when I was 16 and Aunt Pearl took me in. God bless her heart, that woman could burn toast with the oven off. Her idea of Sunday dinner was 2 cans and a prayer. So when I met Calvin at 21 and his mama invited me to Thanksgiving, I thought I'd been adopted into heaven with matching napkins. The house was alive that day. Collard greens simmering, cornbread perfume in the air, Loretta playing Mahalia Jackson so loud the windows shook. She handed me a bowl and said, "Make yourself useful, baby. Can you mix the cornbread stuff in?" That was my first test, and I passed. From then on, every holiday was mine to carry. Year after year, they passed the torch and never looked back. Mashed potatoes, ham, then the turkey, the crown jewel. When Miss Loretta passed in 2011, they turned to me like it was already written somewhere. "You got it this year, right, Nadine?" And I said yes, because saying no ain't something women like me learn early. So I cooked. For 12 years straight. Every 4th of July cookout, every Easter, every baby shower that needed just a little mac and cheese on the side. 5 a.m. mornings with steam fogging the windows, sweet tea sweating on the counter. I'd load foil trays into the back of Calvin's truck while he watched SportsCenter in his socks. My daughter Maya was always with me, headphones on, coloring quietly at the kitchen table. She was 7 when she first helped me stir the yams, tiny hands gripping that wooden spoon like it was a wand. Now she's 13, beautiful, brilliant, autistic. Hums when she's overwhelmed, flaps her hands when the noise gets too loud, and bakes a peach cobbler that'll make grown folks tear up. Every time we walked into Calvin's family house, they'd smile. The kind of smile you save for a neighbor's baby on a plane. Tolerant, polite, distant. I told myself they meant well, until last week. The Sunday before Thanksgiving, the group chat was buzzing like hornets. Aunt Diane had the mac and cheese. Janelle was flying in from Dallas. Somebody asked if we were doing a prayer circle again. Then a little gray bubble popped up from Trina, Calvin's baby sister. "I wanted to bring this up before we get too close to Thursday," she wrote. Pause. "Would it be okay if we asked Nadine not to bring Maya this year?" I stared at those words until the screen dimmed, tapped it awake, read them again. She followed up quick. "I love Maya, y'all know that, but she gets overwhelmed, and last year she spilled cider on the carpet, and it was just kinda a lot." Then came the knife wrapped in sugar. "I just think it would be easier for everyone if it was adults only this year. Adults only. As if my child was a spill to avoid, not a soul to love." The phone felt heavy in my hand. The ceiling fan ticked once, twice, and the house went too still. I waited for someone to speak up. For Aunt Diane to say, "Now, Trina, that ain't right." For Calvin to type something, anything, nothing. Just a thumbs-up reaction from my own husband. That emoji burned hotter than a stove eye. I set the phone down, walked to the kitchen, and stared at the sweet potato casserole cooling on the stove. The crust golden, edges caramelized just right. Maya had helped me sprinkle the pecans in a perfect little pattern. I lifted the dish, held it a second too long, then let go. Glass met porcelain, a sharp, violent sound that split the air. Orange filling splattered across the sink like a sunset gone wrong. Maya came running in, eyes wide. "Mom?" She saw the mess, the steam, my hands shaking but steady. "Change of plans, baby," I said softly. "We're doing something different this year." The AC kicked back on. Somewhere outside, a dog barked twice, then stopped. I took a breath that tasted like freedom and burnt sugar. They didn't know I was recording that night. Didn't know I screen recorded every message, every reaction, every silence. Didn't know that betrayal, that small digital betrayal, would be the match that lit everything I'd been too tired to burn. You can cook for people, clean for them, pray for them. But the moment you ask for decency, the moment you need protection for your child, that's when you learn who they really are. Later that night, I opened the chat one last time, scrolled up through years of thank you gifts and love you sis texts. My thumb hovered, then click, silence. No confetti, no fireworks, just the steady buzz of the ceiling fan and Maya humming softly to herself in the next room. When Calvin came in later, he looked around at the sink, the broken glass, the sweet potato mash drying at the edges. "What happened here?" he asked. I wiped my hands on a towel, met his eyes. "Nothing you didn't agree to." He blinked, confused, then asked, "So what time we heading over there Thursday?" I didn't answer. I just looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time in 12 years, he didn't know what that silence meant. The fork on the counter caught the light and held it, just for a second. And that was the moment I knew. Silence had signed its own contract that night. The next morning smelled like coffee and denial. Not my coffee, Calvin's. The cheap store brand that always burned a little on the warmer. He was in the kitchen, whistling low, like the night before had been nothing more than static between TV channels. The ceiling fan ticked. The air still held a faint sweetness of baked yams and something darker. Bitterness cooling on porcelain. He didn't even glance up when I walked in, just said, "Morning." Like the word could cover everything he hadn't said the night before. Like silence had an erase function. I stood in the doorway, robe knotted tight, eyes fixed on the sink where shards of the casserole dish still glimmered under the window light. It looked like a broken promise catching morning sun. Edges sharp, reflections honest. Something once meant for family now only reflecting truth. By noon, my phone buzzed like a guilty conscience. Trina. "Hey, Nadine left the group, everything okay?" Then Aunt Diane. "Girl, you all right? We love you." Then Tanya. "We hope you're still bringing the turkey, sis. No one does it like you." Not a single one mentioned Maya. Not one asked if my child was okay. Their love had fine print, and I'd finally read it. I didn't respond, didn't even open the app. Just washed the glass from the sink. Piece by piece, slow as prayer. Each shard felt like memory, one for every holiday I'd carried alone, one for every thank you that never reached my name. The water ran cold, then warm, then cold again. I kept rinsing. Maya stayed close, quiet as sunrise. She felt the shift. That child always did. Her hum filled the kitchen, a soft, steady note, somewhere between comfort and warning. By sunset, Calvin finally looked up from his comfort. "So, what was that about?" He didn't pause the TV, didn't even mute it. "Leaving the group. That was kind of dramatic, don't you think?" I turned from the sink, hands wet, voice steady. Dramatic is asking a mother to leave her child behind. Dramatic, I said again, softer, is treating your niece like a problem to be managed. He blinked. That slow, careful blink men use when they know they're wrong but hope silence might save them. "Nadine, come on. You know Maya's great, but it's not about that. Trina was clear," I said. "And so were you." He didn't answer, didn't apologize. Just let the silence hang between us thick as grease smoke. The TV laughed for him. That night the house went still. No music, no news. just the hum of the fridge and the tick of the kitchen clock, the kind of quiet that makes you face yourself. I lit a candle, vanilla bourbon, the one Maya picked out at Target on Peachtree. Its scent rolled through the air like calm pretending to be peace. Flame trembled, small, stubborn, alive. I let my mind wander back 8 years. Thanksgiving at Aunt Diane's house. Maya was 5. Somebody popped one of those little party fireworks right behind her. The noise split her world in half. She screamed, crawled under the table, rocking like she was trying to find herself again. Diane whispered, she might be touched. Trina rolled her eyes. Calvin just stood there, plate in hand, watching like a man waiting for it to pass. That was the first time I learned the difference between being loved and being tolerated. And I decided right there between the mashed potatoes and the whispering that I'd cook enough to earn comfort. Didn't realize I was bargaining with my own peace. The candle flickered. Wax slipped down its side like slow tears. I stared at the flame until my reflection disappeared in the glass. I thought about every kitchen I'd stood in while someone else took credit for family tradition. Every pot I stirred while they passed plates over Maya's head. Every compliment that sounded like ownership. A breath escaped me, half sigh, half confession. I let them. The words barely existed, but they filled the room, because maybe I had. Maybe I'd been so busy being useful I'd forgotten how to be seen. The clock ticked. 1, 2, 3. The heater clicked on. Time. Polite but persistent, reminding me it was still moving even if I wasn't. I reached for my phone, not to scroll, to call someone I hadn't dialed in years. Aunt Bernice, Mama's baby sister down in Macon. Her number was still saved under burn. She answered on the 3rd ring, breath first, voice second. "Lord, I was just thinking about you," she said, soft and knowing. I didn't even manage hello before my throat broke. "Auntie, they said Maya shouldn't come to dinner this year." Silence. Not the empty kind. The measuring kind where wisdom is deciding which truth to hand you. Then, "Baby, if a table got conditions on your child's seat, it ain't your table no more." The words landed slow, like stones in water. Ripples spread through everything I'd believed about family. I pressed my palm to my eyes, nodded, though she couldn't see. Bernice went on, voice steady as church bells. "They don't see her, Nadine. Never did. They saw what you do, not who you are." Pause. "And when a woman outgrows usefulness, they'll call her selfish for choosing dignity." I swallowed the lump in my chest. The candle flame danced once, like it agreed. After we hung up, I sat a long time, listening. Not for voices, for clarity. Maya's light was still on down the hall. Her humming had softened into dream sounds. The night outside buzzed with cicadas. The Georgia, summer holdover that never learned to quit. I thought about Mama, how she used to say, "The good Lord don't close doors. He replaces the hinges." Maybe this was that hinge moment. I glanced at the candle. The wax pool wide now, flame bending low. The house smelled like vanilla, bourbon, and endings. That's when it hit me. I'd spent a lifetime setting tables for people who never made space for me, and my child had been watching, learning the language of silence. Not anymore. I walked down the hallway, slow, feet brushing carpet. The clock ticked behind me, a metronome for change. I peeked into Maya's room. She was curled on her side, hands tucked under her chin, the stuffed rabbit pressed to her chest. Her nightlight cast soft blue halos on the wall. I sat on the edge of her bed and whispered, "We're not going this year, baby. But don't worry. We'll make our own table." The words felt strange in my mouth. Strong, unfamiliar, free. Outside, the porch light flickered once, as if the night itself was exhaling. The next morning, the candle still burned low, a faint curl of smoke rising from the wick, the scent of vanilla bourbon still hanging in the room like memory refusing to fade. Maya sat on the living room rug, cross-legged, quiet, building a puzzle of a house. Red door, yellow window panes, a sky that refused to fit because one corner piece was bent. It was the day before Thanksgiving, and for the first time in 12 years, I wasn't in anybody's kitchen. No turkey thawing in the sink, no oven timer ticking, no pot sweating on the stove, just silence. But this silence felt different. It didn't sting, didn't ache, didn't sit heavy in my chest like it used to. It felt like positioning. The ceiling fan hummed its slow rhythm. Morning light crawled through the blinds, striping the floor where Maya's puzzle spread out. She glanced up at me once, no words, just awareness, then kept fitting pieces, patient and deliberate. That was her way of healing, quiet repetition. My phone buzzed. Aunt Bernice. "You all right, baby?" she asked, voice warm and seasoned like Sunday soup. "I'm better than I've been in a long time," I told her. She laughed soft, a little breath before wisdom. "That's what leaving other folks' expectations will do for you." We talked for almost an hour. The line crackled once. An old phone, older wisdom. Before we hung up, she said something that planted itself deep. "Don't just walk away, Nadine. Rebuild." That word echoed through the house even after I hung up. Rebuild. Not revenge. Not bitterness. Not some dramatic clean break. Just quiet, intentional repositioning. I looked around the room. The coffee table covered in crayons and coloring books. The window half open, letting in that Georgia air heavy with pine and history. And I decided she was right. It was time to rebuild. I started small. Opened my laptop. Pulled up an email from my cousin Tanya down in Columbus, the paralegal one who used to work with a disability rights group. I typed, "Hey cuz, do you know anyone who can help me write a family boundary agreement? Not legal, just something formal so they know where I stand." She wrote back within the hour, sent a PDF and a note. "About time, Nadine. Template attached. Make it yours." So I did. I printed it out. The paper came out warm from the machine, edges curling a little from the heat. I sat at the table and started typing. My daughter Maya is a full human being with equal right to inclusion at all family events. Any gathering that excludes her is, by default, not a safe space for us. This document is not a request, it is a declaration. Each sentence landed like a nail in a new foundation. I signed it, slow and deliberate, then slipped it into a fresh manila envelope. Slid that envelope into the same casserole dish box I used to carry pies in. Sealed it with packing tape, neat and even. Set it by the door. By noon, Calvin came home from work, boots dusty, shirt half untucked, eyes already suspicious. He sniffed the air, frowned. "No food today?" "There's food," I said, "just not here." He squinted, trying to decode what I meant. "You still mad about that group chat?" I didn't answer, because sometimes silence isn't avoidance, it's alignment. And I was finally aligned with peace. He leaned on the counter. "You can't seriously be skipping Thanksgiving over one comment." "One comment?" I repeated, almost to myself. It wasn't one comment. It was 12 years of silence, finally broken. He scoffed. "You gonna break up a whole family over a kid's tantrum?" That word hit me hard. Tantrum. I turned to face him, walked slow, every step its own sentence. "You don't get to call it a tantrum when you never learn the language." The room froze. Even the ceiling fan seemed to stop for a breath. Maya stood in the hallway, small hands clasped, watching, her gaze calm, understanding without words. I nodded toward her. "Let's go, baby." We left. No yelling, no bags, just 2 hearts and a casserole box. The drive across town was quiet except for the hum of tires and Maya's soft hum in the back seat. That same tune she used when she wanted to feel safe. The Georgia sky stretched wide above us, pale gray and forgiving. Bernice's house sat at the end of a gravel road, porch light already on though the sun hadn't set. When she opened the door, warmth hit me. The smell of smoked turkey and collard greens with vinegar, the faint buzz of a ceiling fan overhead. She smiled. "Come in, baby. Table's already set." She had 2 plates waiting. Maya's had no gravy, just how she liked it. That was the first time my daughter ever ate a holiday meal where every item on her plate had been chosen with her in mind. We stayed for hours. Laughter like music, the kind that loosens the chest. Bernice told Maya stories about my mama, her big sister, how she used to hum in the kitchen when she was nervous, same way Maya does. "You got her cheekbones," Bernice said, smiling, "and her spirit, sweet but unshakable." Maya smiled back, didn't hum once. Around sunset, I stood by the window, watched light fade through the pecan trees, and knew what I had to do next. Calvin had texted twice already. "Where are y'all? Everyone's asking." I typed nothing. Instead, I picked up the casserole box, the one holding the envelope, and drove across town again, stopped outside Trina's house. The neighborhood smelled like deep-fried turkey and fresh pine mulch. Her porch light flickered against wet wood. I walked up, set the box down, rang the bell once, and walked away. Didn't wait for footsteps. Didn't need to. Inside the box, that envelope. Inside the envelope, my declaration. Typed, signed, dated. And one line written by hand at the bottom. "If this was you, would you forgive them?" Let them chew on that. Let them taste the silence they served me for years. By Friday, the group chat was dead quiet. No thank you, everyone. No plates were fire. Just 3 dots that never finished typing. Then, Janelle removed you from the group. A few seconds later, Trina left the group. Silence again, but this time, it didn't sting. It cleared the room. That evening, Calvin came home holding the same casserole box like it was radioactive. He dropped it on the counter. "Really, Nadine?" he said, his voice tight. I didn't flinch. Opened the box slowly, pulled out the manila envelope, set it aside, then lifted something else from the box. A brand new Pyrex dish, still wrapped, still shining, still empty. He frowned. "You gonna tell me what this means?" I smiled. Small, deliberate. "You'll know when it's time." What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that this wasn't about a holiday anymore. It was about every yes I gave when I meant no. Every "it's okay" I whispered while swallowing disrespect. Every meal I cooked for people who couldn't make room for my child's chair. That dish wasn't just glass. It was a symbol of what I gave, what they broke, and what I was reclaiming. If this was you, would you forgive them? Later that night, I sat at Bernice's old oak table with a pen and fresh paper, started writing names, not of enemies, not even of family, but of women like me. Mothers who bend too long, wives who serve too quietly, women who mistake endurance for grace until the weight becomes a wound. Beside each name, I wrote one question. What do you really want next year to look like? Calvin came in as I sealed another envelope. "What are you doing now?" he asked. "Getting things in order," I said. "For what?" "The holidays," I replied. "Just not with y'all." He scoffed. "You actin' like you done with us." I folded the page slow, slid it into the envelope, licked the seal. Then I smiled. A quiet, steady smile. He had no idea the papers were already filed. I didn't expect the invitation. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, the mailbox held it like a test. A paper envelope, thick, cream, and pretentious, with my name in gold script. "You are cordially invited to the family Christmas potluck and vision board brunch, hosted by Aunt Diane, downtown, new event space." At the bottom, a quote curled in fancy font. "Family is where life begins and love never ends." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the mail, because sometimes the universe sends irony wrapped in cardstock. Calvin walked in as I was holding it. "They're trying to include you now," he said, half smirking. I didn't answer, because inclusion that comes after exile isn't reconciliation. It's reputation management. On the couch, Maya sat drawing, her crayons scattered like confetti, colors bold again, red, orange, deep purple. That morning, she'd drawn a picture of a house with two people outside. One held a tray, the other a puzzle piece. The door was gold, wide open. I stared at that picture longer than I meant to, because sometimes children see the finish line before we know the race has ended. The potluck was set for Sunday at noon, and I showed up. Not to serve, not to carry trays or wear my good apron, just to arrive. I wore a soft cream dress that moved when I breathed. Maya wore her glitter star hoodie, and I carried one thing, a glass casserole dish wrapped in a red bow. Inside, not food, but something far heavier, the envelope, sealed, dated, and signed, a copy of our declaration, and one more page stapled to the back, Maya's diagnostic report, next to a picture of her at 4 years old, smiling in front of a mountain of mixing bowls. The air outside Aunt Diane's event space was thick with fried catfish and gospel. Cars lined the street, windows fogged from laughter and sweet potato steam. I took Maya's hand. "Ready?" I whispered. She nodded. Didn't hum, didn't fidget, just breathed, steady and sure. When we walked in, it felt like someone hit pause on the music. Eyes shifted. Fork stopped mid-air. Trina froze by the dessert table. Tanya's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Even Diane, God bless her church smile, looked like she'd swallowed the wrong scripture. "Oh, Nadine, we didn't think you'd—" I held up the dish. Calm. Still. "It's not food," I said softly, "but it's what y'all really need to digest." She blinked, confused. Her hands trembled just enough to give her away. When she lifted the red bow, the envelope slid out. Ivory against red. Bold black letters across the front read, "Declaration of Dignity, Nadine and Maya Harris." Her face, drained. The room followed. I spoke before she could. "This isn't a fight," I said. "It's a mirror." I turned to the rest of them, the cousins, the in-laws, the witnesses who had all stood silent when silence was the easy choice. For 12 years, I cooked every dish in this room. I carried y'all through every holiday, through grief, through chaos, through every "who made this?" compliment that forgot my name. No one moved. No one breathed. But when my child, my heart, became inconvenient, y'all voted her out of the family like she was a menu item that didn't fit the theme. A fork clinked against a plate somewhere in the back. The heater clicked. Someone's phone buzzed and then died in their lap. I kept going, because my voice had been waiting 12 years to exist. Some of y'all smiled through it. Some of y'all excused it, and some of y'all outright agreed. But the truth is, we already made peace with your absence long before you ever felt ours. Maya stood beside me, hands still, eyes bright. No humming, just presence. And for the first time in her life, nobody looked away. That was the win. That moment, her silence being heard. I placed the dish on the gift table, the red bow gleaming under fluorescent lights. Then I turned and walked out. Not angry, not loud, just whole. Calvin followed me into the parking lot, his footsteps quick, uneven. "Nadine," he started. I stopped. The cold air bit my skin, but my heart felt steady. He looked small standing there, tie crooked, words fumbling out of guilt. "I didn't know they were gonna—" "You did," I said gently. "You just hoped I wouldn't." He looked down, then at Maya. For the first time in years, he bent to her level. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Not loud, not for show, just real. Maya studied his face, tilted her head, then reached into her coat pocket and handed him the drawing. The house, the tray, the puzzle. He held it with both hands, like scripture. Sometimes redemption doesn't need a stage, just an understanding. We drove home under the quiet hum of Motown Christmas. Maya sang softly in the back seat, her first time singing in months. Her voice wasn't perfect, but it was free. I let the sound fill the car, didn't correct her, didn't cry, just let the moment be what it was, healing in motion. The sun slipped low, downtown lights blinked on, and somewhere between a traffic light and a gospel commercial, I realized something simple. I was never the background. I was the rhythm, the pulse that kept everything standing, and they only noticed when it stopped. That night, I lit the vanilla bourbon candle one last time, watched the flame flicker slow and gold. The house smelled warm, safe, and new. Maya fell asleep on the couch, blanket half slipping off her shoulder. I pulled it up, kissed her forehead, whispered, "We did it, baby." I sat back, letting the silence breathe with me. Outside, the wind rattled the porch chain, and the faint buzz of a streetlight hummed through the window. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I was free. They still drive past the house they said I'd never own, still whisper about the woman who walked away with grace and a Pyrex dish. But me? I just smile. Because every time I light that candle, I remember what Bernice said. When a woman outgrows usefulness, they'll call her selfish for choosing dignity. And that's all right, because dignity smells like vanilla and bourbon, and peace don't burn. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done?